If you're working with a lot of buyers right now, chances are you are experiencing quite a bit of pushback. Buyers who are not yet ready to buy or not ready to pay the price to get what they want. So in this video, I'm going to be covering the dialogues that have worked exceptionally well for me and for my team in terms of getting buyers off the fence and into action. I'm also going to be covering some of the dialogues that we're using right now with our buyers to help them not waste our time and their time, and not just write losing offers, but actually write offers that win. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Danny Gould. I'm the CEO and founder of Selling Silicon Valley Group, as well as Legendary Agents. Over the last 8 years, I've sold over $200 million worth of real estate. And right now we are in a low inventory market. And in low inventory markets, we have an exceptionally difficult time getting our buyers into contract. And why is that? Well, it's basic human emotion, right? We are fear. There's a lot of fear, underlying fear in the marketplace right now, especially in a market like this, where there's a lot of chaos going on around us. Now, Barry Habib, one of the foremost experts in real estate and mortgage space, I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and he said a quote. He gave us a quote that really stuck with me. He said, "Chaos creates opportunity." And I genuinely believe that there is a lot of opportunity right now for our buyers in this marketplace. If we can allow them to see that, and if we can inspire them into action, then they're gonna love you for it. And so in this video, I'm gonna cover some of the objection handlers and the dialogues that we're using right now to help get our buyers off the fence and into action, and then ultimately writing winning offers. Before we go into that though, it's important to understand the 3 different types of buyer that you're gonna be working with in this type of market. The first buyer is the one who is super motivated, super hungry, and they're gonna do anything and everything that they can to get the house. And those are your, poster child perfect buyer. And they are difficult to find. And a lot of times they've actually been one of the other 2 types of buyers. And so they graduated into this phase because they're tired of losing and they want a house. And so that's the best kind of buyer to work with in this market. Harder to find, and either they've been conditioned by the market up until this point, or they have a really pressing life need. Like, a wife is 6 months pregnant and they need a house really fast. Like, that is a really good candidate to be this kind of purchaser, or someone who's been beaten up a few times. I can tell you that there have been many clients that I've worked with who I found at either open house or through sphere of influence who have come to me with a losing record. They have another agent that's been working with them that's written 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offers. And so they're looking for something new. They're looking for someone that's actually going to help them win. And so it's important to realize that if you are an agent who is working with a lot of buyers right now and you're not getting them into contract and they're losing, that you are basically setting yourself up to get fired at some point, and they won't tell you. They're not going to tell you that you're fired. They're going to tell you 3 months after they're in contract, or after they move into their house, hey, you're going to hit them up for like the 15th time. And then they're going to say like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for all the time and the energy and the effort that you put in, but we actually found a house. And if you are not good enough with your dialogues, if you don't have great sales skills, you're going to run into that situation very frequently in this kind of market. People don't want to lose, but they also need permission to win. You should remember that. People don't like to lose, but they also need permission to win. So that's exactly what you as a great salesperson should be doing, is giving your buyers permission to win. The second kind of buyer is the buyer who is writing offers right now, but they are not writing to win. The third type of buyer is the buyer who is kind of sort of in the market, but they're on the fence as to whether or not they should be writing offers right now or even looking seriously. And so these are your like on the fence buyers. And those are really the 3 kinds of buyers that you're going to come up against in this market. It's like, the C buyer, the B buyer, and the A hot ready buyer. Yeah, so let's tackle the B buyer first, and then we'll go into C. Now, here's the truth, is that in this kind of market, it's exceptionally difficult to get a C buyer to A status in like the course of a 6-month period. There's a lot of resistance there, and the truth is that if they're already kind of sort of on the fence about things, getting someone from like being on the fence into activity, and then from activity into writing winning offers is a really tall task. And it could be rather far-fetched of you to believe that you could do that in a short amount of time right now. And so really what you want to do is you want to focus on getting those B buyers into writing winning offers, and obviously your winning A buyers into contract, and then those C buyers moving them into more of a B phase, so that over the next 6 months, you continue to move that pipeline forward. And it comes down to a few simple conversations. So first of all, let's talk about how to deal with the buyer that is not writing to win. Typically, if a buyer is writing offers frequently, but they're not writing to win, it's usually because they don't believe that the home is worth that much. And so they'll say things along the lines of, oh, well, we don't think that's a fair price, or we don't think the home is worth that much, or that's too high of a price, something along those lines. Here's the dialogue that I've found to be extremely impactful when dealing with these types of buyers. And we want to come from a place of understanding. So the first thing that I do typically is I say, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, I completely understand how you're feeling. And I've had a lot of clients who have felt the same way. So we're gonna use the classic feel, felt, done. I completely understand how you're feeling, and I've had a lot of other clients who have felt the same way. And what we found is that price isn't dictated by what you think is fair or what you think the home is worth. The price of this home is dictated by what the market believes it's worth. Do you understand the difference? Typically, they'll sit there and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, right? Like they'll kind of give like that hemming and hawing. And so you want to allow them to get their feelings out and because this is going to be a deep cut. They're going to really start to understand. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like it's not about me. It's not about what I think. Right? It's about what the market thinks. And this is how I've closed out that dialogue in the past that I found to be super impactful is Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Seller. At the end of the day, if we elect to not write a winning offer on this one, if we elect to not pay this price, then what's going to happen is 30 days from now, this home will close and it will become the new comparable sale, which will then mean that the next time we write an offer, we're gonna end up having to pay more than what this one closed for in order to win that house. So we're either gonna pay now or we're gonna pay more later. Which one would you prefer? And when you put it like that, all of a sudden they start to really warm up to the idea because they're like, yeah. And so here's the great news, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, is that in this type of market, we see appreciation like this happen on every single closing. And so over the next 3 to 6 months, how much equity do you think you will have built if you decide to pay now? Well, probably quite a bit of equity. Exactly. So sounds like you know what you need to do. You can just say it like that. And that's what I've said to oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many buyers I've used that dialogue with. And it really helps clarify to them, what's important. Is it important what we think? Is it important what we think the home is worth? No. It doesn't matter what we think the home is worth. The truth is the market is saying this is what it's worth. And so if we're not willing to pay that price, then we're going to end up having to pay more later. Right? So that dialogue works really well from getting buyers from writing losing offers to writing winning offers. So let's talk about the third type of buyer, the one who's on the fence to begin with and not sure whether or not they should even be in action or not. And typically what I've found is that these buyers are being held back through fear. There are underlying concerns about usually the economy, or they're concerned that after they buy, prices are going to go down. And usually that's in conjunction with economy, right? So any way that you slice it, there are some underlying economic concerns and then concerns about the viability of the asset that they're buying in the short term. Yeah. And a lot of times what I found is that buyers won't even tell you that they're thinking this, right? They just won't return your phone calls, or they'll be kind of standoffish, or they'll just stop responding to you. And so it's really your job as the agent to kind of draw out these objections. And so the best way to really draw them out is to hit it head on. Be like, hey, you know what? I haven't heard from you recently, or it's been a while since we've spoken, something along those lines. And I can't help but feel that something is holding you back. What is it right now that you're thinking, or what is it right now that is holding you back from moving forward in the home search? And so at that point, typically they will respond to you, whether it be a text message or whether it be a phone call. But the best way to do this, obviously, is not through text. You want to make sure that you're on the phone with them or in person. And at that point, the objection handlers that I've used in these sorts of situations fluctuate from client to client, but I'll give you one that's worked really well for me. And you can see how this one could play out in a variety of different scenarios. And the one that's very prevalent right now is in the Bay Area is the job loss that we're experiencing in the tech sector. And so buyers are seeing that and they're on the fence already. And so that's retracting them. And so a lot of them are saying, well, I'm seeing the layoffs and I'm seeing everything that's going on in the market right now. And I'm just not sure if I want to move forward. And again, the feel, felt, found is very impactful in this sort of situation. They say, I completely understand how you feel. I've had a lot of clients who have felt the same way. And what they found was that job loss was only part of their concern. Their big concern was that these jobs being lost is going to create a massive recession here, not just in the Bay Area, but potentially around the country. Would you feel that you're kind of in the same boat? Gotcha. And so they're probably going to say yes, right? Because ultimately all things economy lead to recession. Like all of these different like little things, whether it be rates or whether it be inflation or whether it be job loss or like whatever the category is, it all leads to recession. Yeah. So this is where you can start to like just map it out. Like what their bigger concern was that X, Y, or Z reason was going to lead to a recession. Is that the case? Yeah, that's more or less the case. Got it. And you know what? I understand that. And most of my clients have felt the same way. I don't know if you know this though, but were you aware that 4 out of the last 6 recessions here in the US, housing prices have actually gone up? No, I wasn't aware of that. Got it. Yeah. And most buyers are unaware of that. And the reason that this is because typically during a recessionary period, the Fed lowers interest rates. And so lowering the interest rates invites a portion of the market that was priced out of the market back into the market. And so whatever demand is lost from job loss, for example, so you want to take them back to their objective. Whatever demand was lost from job loss is being gained back into the marketplace through the decrease in interest rates. Does that make sense? Right. So these interest rates being lowered is actually going to help not just keep housing prices where they're at, but in 4 out of the 6 last recessions, housing prices have grown. So inevitably, if these jobs being lost creates a recessionary environment, chances are we're going to be in a situation where prices are actually going to go up. Conversely, right now, because a lot of buyers are thinking just like you, we're seeing a slight drop off in demand right now in the marketplace, Mr. Buyer. So the question is, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, are we going to wait for prices to go up? Or are we going to take advantage of the slightly better competitive environment that we're in right now? Which one would you prefer to do? So when you frame it like that, I found it to be very impactful in terms of getting buyers off the fence. Now, if they're concerned with prices going down, sometimes they'll say like, well, I'm just afraid that the market's going to come down after I buy. And that's a perfectly rational fear, by the way, like everyone is afraid of that. There's a couple of facts right now that you can feed them and then couple that with a slight objection handler that's worked really well for me. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm worried the price is going to come down after I buy. Well, the great news is, Mr. Buyer and Mrs. Buyer, is that here locally, we've seen prices fall from this time last year till now, anywhere from 10 to 15 and sometimes as high as 25% depending on the neighborhood. So when's the last time that you heard of the Bay Area being at a 10 to 25% discount? It's been a long time, right? So, and by the way, you can use, so at that point, regardless of which market you're in, you can use the data that's specific to your market. And the truth is most markets are down, and some of them are down pretty significantly. Ours is down more than most, but that works really well in this sort of situation because we say like, when is the last time that when you've heard that the Bay Area has been on like a 10, 15 or like 25% discount? Yeah, it's been a long time. The question becomes, what would cause prices to go down even more? Let's look back. Last year, what caused prices to come down? What was the main driver? What was the main effect of housing prices coming down? And they'll think about it for a second. And the answer is interest rates. Yeah. So eventually they'll come to that conclusion, be like, exactly, rates. So right now, there are one of two things that could happen with rates: stay where they're at or go down. Yeah. So if rates go up and we wait, then yeah, we're going to get a lower price. But everyone who waited last year is still paying more monthly right now than they would have if they had bought earlier. This is where it really helps to have data, because what I have is like a little data sheet that shows like, hey, someone who bought in April of last year, they bought for like 2 million. And this is what their monthly payments are at, right? And that same or like a home down the street sold for 1.75 like 6 months later, and this is what their rate was, or 1.8, and this is what their rate was, yeah? And you show them the difference there, and you show them that even though this person got a lower price, their monthly payments are still higher, yeah? And so you can do that and show them exactly that. So that's what I usually do, is I show them like, hey, here's a piece of paper that shows like the breakdown. So even though this person won on paper, they're still paying more monthly. So do you want that to happen to you? Like if we wait right now, sure, we might get a lower price on the house, but could you see how we're probably going to end up paying more monthly? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. So the other alternative is that rates stay where they're at or they come down. And if that happens, what do you think is going to happen to prices? They're going to go up. So either we're going to sit here and wait for our monthly payments to go up, or we're going to sit here and wait for the prices on the home that you want to go up. So Do you think it's better to wait on the sidelines for one of those two things to happen, or better to buy now in the current environment that we're in? And this is a classic sales technique. It's like, would you rather have this or that? And give them two very clear distinctions, two very clear options, and have them decide. When you frame it like that, it's very difficult for them to really see it any other way. Why? Because it's the truth. What we're telling them is absolutely true. There is very little chance at this point in time, given how much depreciation we've experienced over the last year, that prices are gonna fall down dramatically anymore. And so right now we're left to figure out like, well, what's gonna happen next? But what we do know is gonna happen is either their monthly payments are gonna go up or the prices are gonna go up. And either one is not a good scenario for any of your buyers. So those are the dialogues that have really helped me over the last 8 years in these sorts of environments. Move our buyers in the right direction. Move them from on the fence into action, and then from action to writing winning offers. And it's not easy. And that's why only the best agents right now, the ones with the best sales skills, are the ones that are getting their buyers into contract, because it really takes a rock solid agent with really good sales skills to get their clients from C to B to A status. And then also at the same time, it takes a really great salesperson to sell the other side on why we should be taking our offer. If you've made it this far in the video and you are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell while you're at it, and give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and it helps me get in front of more awesome realtors like yourself. If you got any piece of value from this video, even a little nugget of knowledge, the best way for you to pay that forward is to like and subscribe so that I can get in front of more people just like you. This is Gould, everyone. I'm selling Silicon Valley. Stay legendary, everybody.